Hi guys, I'm Greg.
I'm John.
We're going to do a Kong Skull Island spoiler review. Before Kong Skull Island started, we saw the special exclusive IMAX footage of like 5 to 7 minutes of Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Go watch that video.
Go watch that.
We really wanted to take time out to tell you why that footage was awesome. Now let's talk about Kong Skull Island.
Woo!
You know what? This is going to be spoiler filled. But it's good if we give our opinions up front first, I feel.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're still here and you want to just know how we felt.
Yeah. Let's just, if you haven't seen the movie, we'll give you like a brief, like, non-spoiler bit in the beginning right here. Yeah. The movie is, it's fun. It's a fun movie.
I had a good time.
It's stylistically done. Like, it's very stylish.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. Although, if you've heard complaints about the movie, I honestly thought, like, 40 minutes in that I wasn't really going to be feeling a lot of the complaints. I thought I was going to end the movie feeling as if, you know, like, oh, it's a B movie. It's a B monster horror movie, but they still had some character in there. If you've heard anyone say that it lacks in character, boy it does. Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
did not know how literal that was going to be when this movie was done.
Yeah,
because it sets you up like, what are these guys talking about? You're totally getting character here. And then, no you don't.
There's like a clean handful of lines people get to say that aren't directly related to, you know, information the plot needs to tell you. Like,
yeah, it's not it's definitely nowhere near up to par with the original King Kong or Peter Jackson's King Kong. Even though I know people tend to be kind of 50-50 about, at least in the circles I encounter, they're a little 50-50 about that movie.
Yeah.
I thought that it was fun and entertaining, and the best way to watch this is on IMAX.
Yeah.
But
like,
if I were watching it at home, I don't feel like I would have enjoyed it as much.
No.
You know?
Like, some of the stuff this movie gets the most right is its spectacle. And everything in this movie is made to be seen on a big screen. Like, even the talk scenes are, like... You know, everyone's posing all the time. But it is cool. Like, the wallpaper is all incredible, and everybody brings their A game to it. Like, the actors are all good. The look is great. The effects are really good. The designs are really cool. Like, what glimpses into the mythos you do get are cool.
Yeah.
You know, just the problem is that the script does not care about the characters beyond getting the plot where it needs to go, and that leads to problems. And then there are a couple of weird plot shifts with certain characters, but on the whole, like, it's a lot of fun. It's really cool, and I still felt like the movie had its heart in the right place. So I feel good about seeing it. You know,
yeah, I thought
seeing it in a good environment.
I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie at all. No. I would definitely say though that it's, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a big letdown.
I'm just bummed to see something that has so much awesome stuff in it fall short.
Yeah.
And fall it's short in a way that you could have fixed 100 times.
It's like the characters and script are the weakest parts of this movie, and it's super apparent when you're watching the film. Because it's so apparent that it so takes away from a lot of the greatness that tends to be happening in front of your eyes. Because, okay, we'll just get into this movie.
If you're not looking for spoilers, now's a good time to tune
out.
out.
Just tune out, you know? This is the audience retention rate is usually when they tune out by this point, so this is good.
5, 4, 3, 2, spoiler time!
Like at the beginning of the film, you know, someone commented in a last Uncut review that I used the word like too much.
Oh, there are tons of phrases I use too much.
And so I'm trying to be more aware when I'm saying the word like.
Yeah. No, you know,
I'm trying to like cut it out.
You know?
Yeah.
The thing is, you know, I mean, you know.
Yeah. Like, so, at the beginning of this movie, I thought it was a cool opening, actually.
I thought the opening was awesome.
Yeah, when John C. Reilly's character, let's pull up his name, when Hank Marlowe, the young Hank Marlowe, I'm so glad they didn't do CGI John C. Reilly's face.
Oh, thank heavens,
I was so happy they were just going to
great.
Trust that the audience could put it together, you know?
Honestly, like, it made it feel more like a movie, more like an actual movie.
And the way it was shot, I like the intimidation and the the rivalry happening between him and I'm assuming that was a Japanese soldier, right?
I believe so.
Yes, and even the fight that they got, like when they're running, because it's so intense, it makes sense why they're not going, where the fuck are we? You know, because these two are out to kill each other. You feel that, and that's why it was like that opening scene that made me think this might actually work. I'm probably going to disagree with what I've heard about this.
This is a tense situation that is about to expand.
Yeah. So, and then when they have this whole moment where the other soldier has the sword, and then Hank catches the sword and starts slicing his hand. That was brutal to watch. I thought it was pretty brutal for a PG-13 opening of a film.
I forgot this movie was PG-13 a handful of times.
It's pretty violent.
They got away with a lot of stuff in this.
And then the knife's about to stab Hank's throat.
Yeah.
And then when Kong appears, it was like a cool.
Yeah, it was tense and cool and
it had a good tonal setup for the movie.
Intriguing. Yeah, it was everything you wanted it to be. And the thing is, like, that scene has almost no dialogue, and I feel like those are the best moments throughout the movie.
Oh, totally.
Or when people are not talking.
Totally, absolutely agree with that.
Like, whatever is just body language and actions, man. Good shit.
Yeah.
Like,
and they were setting up all the characters well. John Goodman's character, Bill Randa. How come when John Goodman's character dies, Corey Hawkins shouts his last name?
I don't know. That's a bit...
This is something that kind of stood out. That's like one of my nitpick issues.
That's a weird thing.
Like, you wouldn't shout like at Humphrey. These guys are friends. They're more than colleagues at this point,
Yeah. Even I think at that point, even if you had some kind of formal address, at that point you would just call their name or something. There are a lot of little things like that. It's weird. Like, this movie will randomly have nuances, and then it will randomly just have nothing moments, kind of like
totally.
that,
Well, so as we're setting them up, like John Goodman, and then they have a good cameo by Richard Jenkins in there.
Dude,
as
Richard
the doubting
Jenkins
senator. Yeah, he's a doubting senator who doesn't believe in his monster projects. And I like where that setup was at that time, where... Okay, this is before Godzilla. This is at a time too where no one's heard of monsters, no sighting of monsters, and people think he's crazy. So I was like, I might be pulled into this actually. They're on a mission to find monsters right now. As the film keeps going, a few more nitpick flaws. When they go to Saigon to recruit Tom Hiddleston's character, I was thinking to myself, like, how he's talking to him. Are you sure this is a good idea? Here's what's wrong with Tom Hiddleston. More expositional dialogue would set up Tom Hiddleston's character. I was thinking, you guys just flew to Saigon. Wouldn't you guys have had this conversation a very long time ago right before seeing Tom Hiddleston's character?
Yeah.
Because that's one of my major issues with this film is most scenes, even especially though, it's when it tries to have character scenes, are so expositional. It was beyond belief expositional. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, I tried to forgive it for a while. I was like, oh, maybe they're just, I know these movies dip into that sometimes.
Especially in the setups.
Yeah. And in the older monster movies, like, you go back and there's a lot of, like, talking about the problem. And then, oh, my dear, we're having a romance, but the monster.
I agree. Because first half it didn't bother me as much.
Yeah, it's like I was forgiving it, and then after a while... Like, I was afraid from almost the first scene, like, where John Goodman and Corey Hawkins, and they're talking to Richard Jenkins. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a little suspicious right now. We'll see. And then more cool stuff happened. But yeah, like, the further you get, every scene is kind of like that, where they're trimmed down to efficiency, so it's like, they're just telling us exactly what we need to know. Here's how I feel, here's what we're going to do, and here's why.
It's plot point dialogue. It's all plot point driven.
And it seems like everything in this movie is trying to focus on the plot. And you're like, it doesn't seem like they factored it much beyond whatever room the camera is in. And sometimes you feel aware of that. You're like, did you guys really plan any of this shit out?
Or even with Sam, like... When they introduced the soldiers, I thought that was a nice moment.
Yeah.
They're all joking, they're making fun of each other, and then Sam Jackson's character is like, he feels like he lost they lost, and he kind of, he even has a line where he says, we didn't lose, we abandoned it, or left the war or something.
We abandoned it.
Yeah. Like, that was... I thought they were setting up... If anyone I thought they tried doing work on in this film, it was Sam Jackson's character and John C. Reilly's character.
Yeah.
Those are the only two characters where I felt like the writers were actually trying to give some shit to them.
Yeah.
And with Sam Jackson's character... wait, what were we talking about? Yeah.
Just the amount of
the place here, yeah.
Just the amount of fleshing out they were doing.
Late, it's like 2 in the morning right now.
Yeah, it is.
It's exactly 2 in the morning, yeah.
And it's a pretty thick movie. Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting that they're the two guys that get the most flesh, is like the truly angry, like, my purpose is gone without an enemy to fight guy, versus like the no, I've lived here, I understand how this thing works guy. Like, okay, like, at least they got two characters that are complementary, but yeah, I don't know.
So when they set him up, his character, you know, he has that moment where they start playing like 1980s police cop music from a movie. They play like a song on here on Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
Remember that moment? We both looked at each other and laughed.
Yeah.
When he like seemed bummed out about something, and it sounded like a detective, you know, like losing the case or something.
You're off the case, McGarnacle.
Yeah, so he wants to go there. I loved Brie Larson's expositional setup. I don't get why you're going to an island when you're about to win an award.
That's the problem. See, that's the trouble, is this movie challenges you, because like everybody who's playing a character is doing a pretty good job, in my opinion. Like,
I thought Brie Larson was very bland, and I don't blame her.
I don't blame her either.
She's an exceptionally talented actress, given a very lackluster written character.
Her and Tom Hiddleston both, I had that thing where like parts way through the movie I was like, wait, something's just wrong here. Like, I know I like you from other stuff. Like this.
Yeah.
And the script really does.
It's not them.
Forget about them a lot. Like, their stories aren't crucial to the plot. They're never made crucial to the plot, because they only address like, oh, you're a photographer and you kind of don't like war stuff. But then by the end of it, she's like, I'm not going to release any of these pictures anyway. So, and Tom Hiddleston, they're like, you're a tracker.
You're a tracker. You're a multi-talented tracker.
And then he just kind of tracks stuff, and the story doesn't care enough to check in with his experience on that. So it's just left up to us to go, oh, he must have tracked all this shit, and that's what he was doing.
See, I didn't mind the expositional stuff with the setting up of the characters. I felt like they were at least setting up characters for when they're about to get into monster territory situations and how they're going to respond and have to use their skills and and who they are. But as far as like motivation and all those, you know, typical writer actor things, there's like the basics don't even feel felt. That's my biggest issue with it, is when they're all on board for this mission, it's just it was all cool. I thought it was all fine, actually. Like, even that stuff I'm like kind of complaining about, I thought that was all fine. It didn't become a problem for me until the movie stayed that way.
Well, and the issue for me is that like it's weird to talk about the script, because I feel like there are some ways in which I don't think the script is like hardly good at all, and there are some ways that I do like. It's like in any of those scenes, most of the time I was like, yeah, I like what you're talking about, and I like what the scene's about. I like that we're here. I like this type of scene is where you went with this. However, I know what type of scene this is. Maybe have them talk like real people do, instead of just telling, here's your stakes and here's my stakes. Here's how we both feel. Next scene.
And let's keep something in mind here as we're talking about this. I know most of you guys are going to be like, well, we didn't come here for the human characters. We came here to see King Kong thrash and all that. And that stuff is all cool. It's all fine and dandy. It's all, sometimes, it's, I don't know, especially in IMAX, it's really awesome. But in order for the film to, look at any of the King Kong movies that have worked, what makes them work is you have good human characters that you're emotionally invested with, that you're on this journey with, where they're in a foreign territory full of, you know, fantastical creatures, and they're in danger, and you feel all that because you feel like you're in their shoes. You sympathize for them.
You have to relate. Like, you have to relate for
this movie to work. It has to have that.
You have to relate in some capacity.
Yeah.
Like, because the thing is like, we are actually not necessarily asking for these movies to be like character studies.
We're not,
like,
they don't have to be character driven exactly. Yeah.
Like, you could have made this like full on Apocalypse Now, and that could have been cool. But I think even if you just split the difference and give the characters some actual moments just so that the stakes make sense, like, you don't have to do that much. But it's like, if this is the first time where I really agreed with you on that point. It's like when they killed John Goodman, I was like, oh, he's not here anymore.
Yeah. Because the thing is, when they have this cool moment where they cross into this ridiculous storm with their helicopters. And as you get closer to the storm,
Mad Max storm.
Yeah, you're like, why did you think this was doable? And beyond that, though, it was actually a cool sequence to watch with the Mad Max storm, because you're like,
I know what kind of technology, like at least a little bit, like this is supposed to be like Apocalypse Now style 70s. I know what your chopper's working with to a degree.
And there was
it's not this storm.
There was a really cool shot where there's a Nixon bobblehead and it's in the storm, and then when it's still on the Nixon bobblehead, and then when they get out of the storm, they're in Paradise Land, Skull Island. I mean, they don't call it Skull Island at that time, but it's like, it looks like paradise.
It looks, it's an oasis.
It's beautiful. It's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this beyond the storm, you know? And because even though you've seen the movie and you see the island, you see how beautiful it all looks, in that moment when it happens, it's so sudden, but it's effective. So that was a really cool moment.
Great, yeah. And that whole sequence, like, again, I know I was bagging on the storm sequence, but I don't even actually care that much. Like, I thought that was awesome. Like, watching as they cross through the storm, like, the way they shot that is... I know Terminator Salvation tried to do, like, a crazy helicopter crash, and, like, it was... I thought they got it even better with this. Like,
oh, totally.
Putting you in that helicopter and seeing that on the giant screen, I was like, yeah, this was worth the $25. Like, because that whole sequence got really immersive. And then when you get that relief, to have them destroy it so quick, like, actually was a cool choice this movie made. Like, you said this in the car. Like, just once they get there, oh, here's King Kong. You just wandered on the king's doorstep, and he's not going to let that stand for long.
And it made sense why Kong attacked them, because they're dropping nukes and shit. Or not nukes, they're dropping...
They're bombing, at least.
They're bombing, yeah, because then that's their intention, is to do that. So I was actually rather happy they cut past all the bullshit with, we're going to land the helicopters. What is this island? Let's look at a bunch of shit before King Kong shows up.
Yeah.
I was actually rather happy that we cut past the build-up, because this movie didn't call for that. The way the movie was playing before they got there, I didn't feel it needed that build-up to see Kong. I thought it worked actually really well when the tree comes flying at the helicopter, it's swirling, you see Kong's hand, and then there's the mouth and everything.
Yeah.
And then I love the shot with all the helicopters, and Kong is like being outlined from the sun. Yeah. It was very like Apocalypse Now kind of shot. And it worked. I thought it was really
monstrous,
cool. It's monstrous, yeah. And the whole sequence is really well done. I thought the way it was all captured was really well done. I mean, there were times where I was like, "How did you survive?"
Well, we just saw it and it's late, but so I'm not gonna do a perfect bisect here. But like I feel like that helicopter sequence, that first arriving at Skull Island sequence, kind of had two parts for me. Because the first part, it's kind of cresting up, and once you get the idea. Like, once he's smashed, a couple helicopters into the ground, it keeps going for a while. And I did start to zone a little bit. Like, there were times where it gave me enough time to start being like, wait, how many helicopters are there? And how many people are there? And how did you survive? Where were you? I feel like the only people who survived, I didn't really see... Or no, that's not true. I guess we still followed the trees and stuff. But,
It was after all that, though... It was probably like right after, because they had a cool moment where everyone's running away from Kong, whoever survived from the helicopter crashes, and Sam Jackson's just staring at Kong, watching and making an enemy in that moment. And that was a cool moment. I like when the fire happens and Kong's eyes are there and he's looking eye to eye with Kong. Yeah. That was a really cool moment. It was after that scene, when that was all said and done, when the film slowly started to actually falter for me. Everything leading up to that, I wasn't truly as bothered as I'm probably making it out to be. It was after that when I started feeling like... Because they divide into three different groups. You got Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, a couple of them. Then you got Sam Jackson and the soldiers. Then you got Toby Kebbell, who's on his own. Yeah. And Toby Kebbell's character, I liked. I liked his character. I think Toby Kebbell's a really good actor. Yeah, Dr. Doom all the way.
Well done, Dr. D.
Black Mirror and other shit.
Black Mirror.
There's something we saw him in recently where we're like, I didn't know Toby Kebbell was in this.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was.
Shite.
But Toby Kebbell, I thought he was really good. He played more of that like tough but sympathetic kind of soldier. He had a son that he was riding home to.
Yeah.
Before he had to, because I like how the film starts from the war is over, the war just ended, and these soldiers who thought they were gonna go home are now gonna have to go on another fucked up mission.
They gotta go to fucking Skull Island.
Yeah. So when they're saying of Toby Kebbell's character, he's writing a letter to his son, Dear Billy, and he gets made fun of by what's that one actor's name? It was where is it? Jason Mitchell's character. And he gets made fun of by Jason Mitchell's character, and then when they're going through the storm, they're all saying Dear Billy this, Dear Billy that. So I was like, I felt like it's weird about this movie. It's like there's no real main character,
Yeah, it is an ensemble. Like
it is an ensemble, but you're not truly latched onto anyone in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a weird happy byproduct. Is like you don't get to know anybody focally, or even if you do, you don't spend enough time for them to feel like the main characters. So you just kind of check in on a bunch of different people, and
it's a lot of checking in.
It just depends on who you find the most interesting.
Yeah,
because to me, like the sort of trio of soldiers was interesting, and then Sam Jackson and John C. Reilly, like those were the characters that always stood out to me the most.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because they get to spend time together,
With Toby Kebbell's character, though, I really liked I liked how he was set up.
Him, yeah, I liked him.
I liked how Toby Kebbell was set up. He has his son back home, and then he had that great moment where I really liked, because he was the only character who had a single moment where I felt concern for him.
Yeah, right?
Where he goes to the water, and then and then when he turns his head, there's something peers out of the water, and he doesn't notice it, but it makes sense how he didn't notice it. Then when it cuts to, he's in the water filling his canteen, and his gun's way back where.
Yeah.
Then Kong shows up. He witnesses Kong fight this giant fucking octopus. And that was a really cool scene, and I felt like worried for him. I felt concerned for whenever it was him, and then they have this scene with him later with the weird tree creature.
Yeah, well, we touched on this earlier. I think again, some of the best stuff in this movie is when there's not a lot of talking, and Toby Kebbell gets for so much of the time he's alone. And those are the most engaging scenes because you just get to watch a guy exploring the island and having actual because he fires a few times at the giant bug thing, and that he could have just killed it. Like the movie didn't have to choose to have the bug back down and sort of go away, and you're like, okay, that feels kind of like an organic experience. And then the thing he has in the lake with Kong is intriguing because you don't know what exactly is gonna pop up, and
But one of the sad facts about this movie is I didn't give a shit when people died. Secondly, when Toby Kebbell dies, one way of seeing it could be like, oh, it's cool, it's unexpected. But he was the only one I was kind of invested in, and the way they treated his death, I hated. Because they treated him like he didn't matter, like he was just being set up to get killed in some way.
This movie does that a couple times,
and I really did not like the way they did that with Toby Kebbell's character, because he was slowly turning into the character I was finding the most interesting.
Yeah,
and the way they killed him off was he don't matter,
Yeah, that became a weird theme, and his is the most glaring, I think, where characters die in very abrupt and very sort of stark manners.
Yeah.
And I get in a war movie, especially a movie that's using a lot of that aesthetic. I get it. I get why you might. And the thing is, especially in an ideal world, I wish that storyline had continued close to the end, because splitting this movie up into three, where you have the battalion on one part of the island, you have your two dashing, heroic leads, and the, money people over here, and then you have one guy.
Yeah. That
could have been a cool trio of stories, and they kill him early, and I'm like, okay, interesting. We've taken time on this guy. And now he's dead. Like you said, props for doing something bold there, but the movie never earns that choice, and so it feels hollow at the end. You're like,
yeah, totally.
You showed me something new, and you didn't attach anything to it for me to go oh, I see.
Yeah.
Other than just oh yeah, I guess you just wouldn't make it very long,
And Tom Hiddleston's group, and Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson. First off, the worst scenes in this movie are Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson whenever they're having a conversation.
Yeah.
They were the worst. They were
like
the worst scenes in the movie.
I feel like those characters got jammed in or something. Like, I don't know. Like, they feel like they belong there, but the script gives them almost nothing else.
It's like
to do.
I felt like they were aware of how crappy their dialogue was. It seemed like they were aware they were doing a good. It felt like they were showing up to work. It didn't feel like they truly gave a shit about these roles. You know, it's like a great actor can do a good job. But they didn't seem like they cared to do a great job because they knew it just wouldn't matter by the end of it, you know?
Yeah, I was watching them and I was like, I thought they were good. I thought they were reasonably authentic, but just nothing. Like, you know, like, and I don't know who to put that on because, again, it's all the dialogue kind of has the same flair to it.
Because whenever here's what I think I can pinpoint it. Whenever they cut to Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston, especially the first couple times they do it, it's like, it sort of feels as if you feel the writers going, well, we need a character moment here.
Yeah.
Let's throw in some quick character expositional plot points here, make it last like 30 seconds, and then move on. Yeah, you know, it doesn't. They don't ever have a scene that you could feel a scene of actors doing a scene. It's like, here's a fact about me. All right, we're cutting away. There you go.
Well,
there's your character. You know.
Well, the movie seems like it is in a hurry because we cut to the next most important scene. Like we don't do any frills with that because there were times where this movie would leap forward and I'd be like, wait, you know, where are we in time?
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Like it became a stylistic choice. I guess it just was always jarring to me.
It felt a little bit like a better. The way how David Ayer wanted to make Suicide Squad, it felt like a better version of that.
Totally.
You know, because it's about keeping the plot moving forward, keeping it moving fast. Let's throw a bunch of soundtracks in there.
Yeah.
And the soundtracks I thought worked better than the ones in Suicide Squad. I know this has nothing to do with Suicide Squad. Yeah. But even with that, though, it felt a little forced. Like, the way
the movie never slows down, so they're so close together, and the scenes clip along so expediently that you're like, oh, another song.
You know? It felt like they were doing production design and things that are reminiscent of the 70s, that look like the 70s, but they're not truly putting you in the 70s, as if the film probably thinks it's doing. I feel like the director probably felt like, oh, this will put them in the 70s. Let's keep changing the soundtracks of the 70s rock and roll to make it feel like we're in the 70s, you know? And I couldn't feel it. I could feel what the intent was. I couldn't actually I felt like I was there, you know?
Well, that's the thing, though, is like, there were times where I felt like I was there. Like, it seems like nothing in this movie felt like they didn't go the mile to get it. You know, like, there are a lot of those scenes where I'm like, it looks like you guys are chilling in a swamp, and it does not, like, look like you are having fun. Like, it really looks like they threw down, and they went out, and they really did it, and my issue becomes like, goodness, everything is pretty good. Why didn't you write some better dialogue?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you dress it up with some better, like, I feel like it can be read as a nitpick, but the movie just checks out on the dialogue every step of the way.
Well, they're kind of trying to sell you on that Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson are the main characters. I feel like the way it's set, they set them up. They're setting them up to be like, these are going to be the ones the audience are hooked into. They're the ones with the chemistry. They're the ones with the romance, possibly. You know, because even there's one scene where Tom Hiddleston suddenly, you know, like she wants to do something, like a light bulb goes out on her camera and he gives her a lighter. Then he gives some, like, background information on him.
He gives his, like, core memory that fuels the entire
Here's
performance.
His vulnerable moment, you know?
Yeah.
and I looked at you, I'm like, now I like Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
movie's telling me to. Yeah.
He just told me why I should feel sympathy.
Yeah.
Thanks, guy.
And, you know, I've heard a lot of complaints about John C. Reilly. You know, people seem to be very iffy about him. I liked him. I thought he was one of the better parts of this movie. I really did.
Yeah, like I get why there is an issue with the humor of this movie, and John C. Reilly gets a lot of it, but I don't think that's anybody that casts fault. It's just sometimes the humor is appropriate, and sometimes scenes aren't scenes enough for it to be, and so it feels weird some of the time.
I feel like sometimes they use the humor as justification, though, for lack of things. Like the one example I can give you is with the Tom Hiddleston group and Brie Larson group.
Yeah.
One soldier makes a crack that I laughed at because I was like, hey, at least they're pointing it out. It's funny how he says everyone's way too calm about this. When he's trying to radio the other soldiers, but he can't get through.
Yeah.
He says everyone's way too calm, and that was a funny line. But after a while, you're like, everyone is way too calm about this, you know?
Well, yeah.
No one seems like they're affected by the fact they're witnessing giant fucking monsters, and they saw a lot of people die, and they almost died.
That's the thing. Like, if this movie fails on one crucial element that it only hints at a couple times, or through a couple characters, it's that. It's like, this event is expanding everybody's scope of the world.
Yeah.
This is profound for
This should be changing everyone's life right now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it really is. It just seems like, we just gotta get out of here.
You get one, like every war movie has at least one cool stoic guy, and this movie is a great one. Like, what's his name? Shit. Shea Wiggum.
The other second in command?
Yeah, the dude who looked like he's seen infinite shit and just was like...
the can after... Yeah. Like... He's a cool character.
Yeah, he's a fucking great character. And that was a guy who, like, didn't have much to do, but boy, did he bring something.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I felt like that's part of why Sam Jackson's character gets thrown off, because they kind of try to have him be the sort of calm, collected, like, you know... seeing shit other people aren't seeing in a shitstorm character, but then they try to make like John Goodman's kind of that guy too.
Yeah.
But also Tom Hiddleston's kind of that guy, but he's only in here every once in a while, so not even that. You know, it's like...
I feel like I get their motivations because they've told me their motivations, but I don't feel their motivation. Like, especially when it came to Sam Jackson's character.
Although I feel like most of the right things happened, but I didn't feel why anybody was making those decisions.
It got to the point with Sam Jackson's character for me, where I was just annoyed. I was thinking, dude, you're being selfish.
Well, that's
like, cut the shit, man. Everyone's trying to just survive and get off the island, and you want to get some fucking revenge against a fucking monster you've just witnessed. Like, this isn't some human dude who in a war who killed your buddies. This is a fucking thing you've never even heard of before.
Yeah, and that's a place where I do just feel like this movie needed to throw down on that, because again, for most of the movie I was like, okay, he's playing this, like, once you get to where his arc goes, I get some of the scenes in context. Like when he stares Kong down for the first time, in retrospect that scene makes more sense. Good job, movie. But like, the way it executes that, for most of the movie, it seemed like they wanted me to think, okay, this guy is like fucking in charge, he's determined, and he's pretty practical.
Yeah.
And then after a certain point, he goes nuts, but he, like, I feel like the movie would have had to let him go nuts. Like,
exactly.
Make him the fucking Brando and let him do that, because
I just felt like there was no sense of confusion or terror being felt from these characters. It felt like when a scene, giant spider, we're scared. Yeah, we're scared in this moment.
Yeah.
There should be I feel like there had to be at least a couple of scenes where someone's like, what the fuck is going on right now, you know? Like, they had that one young soldier dude in Tom Hiddleston's group kind of freaking out about it. But that's what I mean by using humor to justify it.
Well, it was the two young guys. It was Jason Mitchell and Thomas Mann. Like, those two I always thought were kind of having real people reactions.
Yeah.
Because there's that one moment that Jason Mitchell has where he looks fucking terrified holding that gun. Like, he's, like, quivering and, like, kind of crying. Like, that dude's having a moment, and it's great.
But with Thomas Mann, what I mean by humor justifying it, he's the only one in the group who's like, have any of you seen something like this before? We're none of you freaking out. But it's like, that's a funny moment, but it doesn't explain why everyone's so cool about this
None
right now.
of these people are that good at their jobs, except for Zen Guy. I believe it from Zen Guy.
It's like the only one who should be kind of freaked out, who shouldn't be freaked out, is John Goodman's character, and his partner, geologist dude, Corey Hawkins' character.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who were prepared for some monsters.
Yeah.
Only ones. But even they should be a little bit like,
it's
what I was expecting. You know?
There's nothing like your first time. You know,
exactly, right?
I'm pretty sure.
This is King Kong we're talking about, guys.
Life-changing.
This isn't some fucking, just the original is considered a classic. The original, it's a classic, and there's so much character in the Peter Jackson one too. And one of my biggest complaints about this movie too is that Kong is not really a character. Even he's an expositional character. He's nice to us. He's a good ruler. He's in charge, but he doesn't harm us.
Show us.
One thing that kind of bothered me too.
Just
a moment they could have had with Brie Larson's character, something cliche would have done a little justice for me. When they see all the fucking humans, all the Asian people who live on Skull Island, when they see all the humans, and she's Mr. Anti-War Girl.
Yeah.
You could have had some moment of, how have you guys been living here? How have you guys been surviving here?
She does. She decides to take an increased amount of photographs.
Yeah.
Because that's what her character does.
Yeah.
She takes
a lot of photos in this movie.
Like, jeez, man. Like, it's just little stuff like that. It's because there's so much some stuff feels so real. And then some stuff doesn't.
And see, with Kong, I was liking some of the expositional stuff I was hearing, because it had to be expositional, because Kong can't fucking talk.
Yeah.
The whole idea of his family being wiped out by the other creatures on Skull Island. Cool setup for Kong.
Yeah.
But Kong's not really a character. If you look at the other King Kong films, especially like the one that comes most recent to mind for me is Peter Jackson's King Kong, where they hired a talented actor like Andy Serkis to play him, because Kong, you see multi-layers of emotion from the beast. It is heartbreaking when he's fucking dying in the King Kong movie, in Peter Jackson's, because you feel for Kong. Here, he's kind of just a planet. The only real motive for keep seeing Kong or to have Kong again is because Sam Jackson just fucking hates Kong so much. That's the only reason. If you look at the other King Kong movies, it makes sense why we see other monsters and Kong. Because they go to the island, Kong kidnaps a girl, and they all want to rescue the girl. But along the way of looking specifically for King Kong, they encounter other monsters. Here, Kong is just kind of another one of the monsters who's a little convenient for them at times, and they need to get the fuck out of there because it's a human's fault for why these other monsters are now attacking.
See, I get why you're upset about that, and for me, I did appreciate. I didn't mind that they chose to go in a direction of this is a monster movie and Kong is a monster, and the way he played it, I was still at least in awe of Kong because of his intense might and his huge size, but also, the sheer I got a very animal, very primal. Like, they put me in awe of Kong, and I think they did that reasonably successfully, and they gave me at least one or two moments where Kong was doing non-destructive shit where I could be like, oh, this is at least, I feel like I'm looking at a real thing, so cool,
Hey, no, I'm not saying any of that. All that is, I completely agree with.
Yeah.
I'm saying in terms of, it's hard to say, get to know Kong or
He just doesn't have as much of a personality in this one beyond
No, she's like, I just, what are you doing here? I don't like you,
That's what the end. That last shot of the movie felt like, these motherfuckers again. These fucking helicopters
doing
again.
Yeah, I just feel like if this was I love the tone and the flair and the style of making it like a B-movie monster flick. I love all that. I just hated how, you just really cut out a lot of potential good character for anyone in this movie, or even making Kong a little more. I think Kong's primarily interesting just because it's King Kong. It's a giant fucking ape, and he's doing all these, and he's smashing and killing people and other creatures. But I think of Peter Jackson's King Kong, where he's just having a fun time with Naomi Watts, and that's one of my favorite scenes out of that one. Where he's dancing around for her, then he gets kind of grumpy about some shit. You get to see how he responds to people and things, and how he can feel emotions. Instead of being told, I didn't feel any of that for Kong in this movie. I always thought he was fascinating and interesting, but I didn't feel for Kong. I didn't feel terrified of him. I was just glad he was on screen because it was cool.
I was kind of terrified.
Really?
I mean, once creepier looking shit came in, like I was a little less terrified of him. But like I never didn't feel the threat of his presence, except for once when he just. It was a nice moment, but like she would not like. There's no way Kong can sneak up on her.
Oh yeah. Oh,
when she's trying
to get the helicopter by herself. Yeah.
I like what that moment's about. Like I get it, but like there's just no way. Like there's no possible way Kong is just gonna appear there.
Yeah.
Like it's sweet, but dude, like, it's a strange.
I'm being told Kong's a caring ape. I just would like to have some scenes where it really does show.
I didn't feel like he was. I felt like there was at least respect. Like I felt like that's what. Basically, he could at least recognize a couple people who didn't seem like they wanted to destroy everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, okay, respect. And you stumbled upon me. That guy's got a gun. He's probably seen a couple of those before.
Yeah.
You bothered to touch my nose. Cool.
I mean, in all honesty, Kong was more of a character, despite what I've been saying about not really being a character. He's more of a character than Tom Hiddleston or Brie Larson is in this movie to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a bummer because this is almost like a Jurassic World situation for me, again, with some of these characters, but in a way that almost makes me sadder because I'm like, I thought Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson were fine. I like both of them. Like, I bet with a few more scenes, I would have thought they were good. Like, those characters might have been good, but they were the ones that they didn't get enough else to elevate, I feel like. There was only so much they could elevate them, and they're fine.
Yeah. It sucks is, like...
I was let down, because I really wanted to see Tom Hiddleston play that part of, like, dashing hero.
Always beautiful, the whole time. He could come out of the water and be dry in the next shot. His hair was perfect. He never broke a sweat. He never got a little dirty.
That's the problem, is it doesn't treat, like, that's the irony to me of this piece, is like, it takes, it borrows from a time where movies were allowed to spread out and let characters chat with each other.
Yeah.
They were not in a hurry to get the plot, they're not going to bypass that shit to get the plot done as quick as that. Like, every 70s movie I've really seen, like, they take their time, and to apply that idea to the most modern, like, we're going to move this plot, sort of storytelling, it's just weird,
Yeah.
Because everything's there, and none of it is given the time.
But I would say John C. Reilly made me laugh a good amount. I cared for him. Yeah. I really thought they were going to kill him when he gave that little thing about his son and wife. I was really sold they were going to kill him. I'm glad they didn't. I thought it was a weird 8mm ending.
Yeah, I was like, this is an oddly human ending.
Someone documenting this, but now they're getting shots where it's like,
yeah,
that's not a documentary.
Right there, this is oddly well shot, and this is it. Like, my heart is warmed. Okay,
yeah.
Like, interesting.
But the ending, I did not like that. Okay, well,
I got confused.
A couple of every monster sequence was for the most part very entertaining and great to look at. It's just the problems are so apparent that you can't help but feel them by the time this movie's done. Because you're looking at so much potential.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is the ultimate thing. This movie maddeningly wastes potential on certain things because it hits it on so many others.
Yes.
Like, and that's super duper frustrating. So it's easy for us to sound, I think, like we have a lot of angry things to say, but the experience of watching it, I was like, everything you want to be cool is cool. Yeah. All the actors are good. The shots are great. The music's really good for the most part. It accomplishes most of what it wants to be. Yeah. And that missing 10% is just very loud.
Yeah.
And that post-credit sting, man. Oh no, you want to talk about the legit ending.
Actual ending. What a confusing fucking ending that was. Like, you need it. I don't like post-credit scenes where you have to stay for the post-credit scene in order to understand what the fuck happened at the ending.
Yeah.
Because, once Kong defeats the other creature, which I don't get how he didn't crush Brie Larson. I just don't get how he did that.
I was like, you've got stellar wrist control.
Yeah, right, because Brie Larson's in his hand. He uses the same hand and manages to rip out all the insides of this monster without, like, like grabbing
without squeezing. And I mean, props if he's that coordinated.
Yeah.
But that's, like, she's at least got to have some fucking whiplash or something. And, like, that's... Honestly, like, for this movie, I've seen movies get wackier much faster. So if you want to argue the sort of, like, let it go argument, I will let it go.
I will let it go.
But it was there, and I did think...
Well, there's conveniences in this film. There's a lot.
You
know, I think of that scene. I thought that was cool when they, like, a lot of times it goes like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. I like it. And then... Why'd you do that? Yeah. Where they go to where the west side of it, where there's the skeletons of Kong's family. Yeah. That was cool. I like that they went there,
and I like that they forced the story into that corner. He's like, "I'm not going back without my guy," and you're like, "You know what? Oh, this sucks, but I get it." Like,
yeah.
And it's cool when a movie can do that.
And John C. Reilly, like the way how he was behaving about the whole thing, the way he was responding to it, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then a couple things happened in that moment that kind of bothered me. One, when this creature who killed Toby Kebbell, like in this time frame, like a long time before he gets there, decides to throw up, just happens to be in front of Tom Hiddleston to give them a quick answer that you don't have to search for this guy anymore because he's definitely dead. His dog tags are crisp and clean, and he's a skull. You know.
See, I felt like that could have been cool. Is like, if at that point Sam Jackson just kept going on that mission to go find him, and everybody else went back to the boat.
Yeah.
Like, you know? It's like this movie has so many opportunities with these, like, the parts where the plot actually gets a little thin or a little weird in a way that you can't just cover up with enjoyability. Those times, they almost always leave you other more interesting options, and, like, that's the frustrating thing.
And also in that moment when it becomes like fucking Zack Snyder's 300, where Tom Hiddleston goes, sword, and then he puts on a gas mask for like a few seconds, because it's in slow motion what we're watching, so it's a few seconds he puts on the gas mask just to suddenly become a great samurai and take down these...
Just run in profile and hack a few dudes, you know, along the way.
And then he takes off the mask right away. I'm like, why'd you put on the mask to begin with?
That's not how this works, dude. Like
you should keep the mask on if you're
gonna
on the rescue stuff.
Put it right back on to run right back out of there.
Yeah.
You're in a short sleeve T-shirt in toxic gas, and you know pores exist as well. You're gonna need to wash off.
And who's Shea Wingham, the second in command that we liked.
Yeah.
The guy who doesn't give a shit. He had a great... I liked his death moment. I thought that was actually one of the few clever moments of the film. Like an actual really clever moment where he goes all Billy from Predator. And he's like, I'm going to stay behind and handle the mission myself. I like his goodbye line. I like how the other soldier was like heartbroken about it. It's the only time someone seemed actually affected by another character dying, you know?
Yeah, and again, that's the only calm guy where I'm like, I get you though. Like, and that moment, like, he's
just lived in hell, and he's become numb to everything, and it's at the point like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah. Here's my shot. Like I know what I can do, and it's gonna help. Like,
and that was clever because when he has the grenades, I was thinking, you know, I forgot in the trailer that you see Kong fight this creature.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that okay, this is how they're gonna get rid of this monster. Is he's gonna get swallowed? Oh, that's cool, and he gets a good death. And I thought it was heartbreaking and smart of the creature to go, something's not right, and then hit him with his tail instead of eating him, because the creature was smart enough to figure something out. I thought that made for a more clever creature as well.
And that death made me sad. Like,
death,
I felt sad for once. I was like, oh, like you gave, and the way they shot it too, like that moment, the way he played it, like that dude's a terrific actor. Like that is a great moment, and then he gets smacked into a wall.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh. How sad.
Like,
you know, and like it leaves an impact, whereas like it does the same thing kind of to Toby Kebbell, but just doesn't
feel like a
the movie proves it can do that kind of scene. It just doesn't half the time.
And so the whole fight was really cool. I liked the fight.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, what the hell just happened when Brie Larson shoots the flare gun at the monster's eye with perfect aim. She becomes an action heroine. It sounds like you liked it.
I did.
I didn't.
I get. There's stuff I can't argue with. Like, yeah, I'm sure her marksmanship isn't great. Half of me wonders, well, steady hands, you know. But
photography and shooting a gun are two totally different things.
So yeah, the thing I did like about that was I did think it was at least like practical. I was like, you do have a flare, and that's the thing that you can use as a distraction because it's more prolonged in a different way than a bullet. I was like, because usually you think, a flare's not going to kill it, and then I realized like, that's not the point. Like,
yeah, but she got the perfect aim though.
Yeah,
it's like the perfect aim for a flare gun to go right into inside the monster. Yeah.
I can't remember how close, but yeah, it didn't bug me, but I get it. Yeah.
And so I was. What really bummed me out was the way it ended, because I thought, like, okay, they might be able to get off, the helicopters are coming in. This is the moment we could have where we finally see that all these people, now that they feel like they're actually going to get off this island, we can have a scene where we see how affected they are by this experience.
Yeah.
Because they've just been through trauma. They've been through a nightmare. This is not anything anyone here expected to go through or was prepared for in the slightest.
And they put us through it too.
Yeah. And instead, the camera pans over to Kong, zooms in on him. He's getting mad seeing helicopters coming in. Roar, cool shot on the eye. Credits roll. So I'm left with A, no payoff for the characters at all. B, does Kong kill them? What does happen? Then it cuts to 8mm footage in the credits. Or I guess they got off the island, but what happened? They talk to Kong and go, no, we're not gonna drop bombs this time. We're just gonna get these guys and go. You know?
I think the true message of that scene now in hindsight is like, I guess he just goes, yeah, the boat people are leaving. These helicopters are probably going to pick them up. I'm king, guys. Just remember that shit. Don't come back.
It looked like he saw those helicopters and was like, you fuckers are back.
Because the thing, like the second that moment happened, I was like, is he about to go destroy their only way off this island? Like, is this about to get really kind of nihilistic?
But he would.
It looked like he was gonna. Like,
Kong would.
He didn't look okay. He looked frustrated as hell.
I don't think Kong is like logically putting anything together right now. Like, he sees the helicopters are the ones who were fucking bombing shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I would think his association would be, they're about to do it again. And it certainly played like that, too.
He's got reason to be cautious at very least, you know?
Yeah, but that post-credit scene, man, that was comparable to the email scene in BVS for me.
Yeah. Anytime characters rush in, they're like, watch this footage. Like,
yeah. It seemed like it was just only done for people who hadn't heard the news that Kong and Godzilla are connected, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
people who don't follow movie news, this was like only for them to hear. So it was like I don't know, it's done kind of lazily. I felt like they could have done it something kind of cooler where you see like the back of Godzilla or something like that, you know, or you see the boat or something more clever, more than just what island. Here's more information about other islands, you know?
Here's Japan.
We suddenly found a lot of information that we didn't have before, you know?
Yeah, well, and I was also just thrown for a minute because I was like, wait a minute, where are you? Wait, you're at Monarch. What's happening? Why are you familiar characters here, but you guys are over there? This is telling me whole new information. Like, and it seems thin. Like, I don't know. It just seems like somebody asked him, like, hey, you got to do post-credits thing. We got a franchise coming up. Can you just shoot some extra shit? Do you have, like, a set that you're not using?
Like something they shot, like, months later.
Yeah, it didn't feel like, it just felt like, a reminder of news and not like, oh, shit, it's already begun, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So it kind of felt it didn't feel natural to me, I guess.
No, it didn't.
Like, I was excited by some of the images. Like, I thought the cave paintings of the other monsters were really cool. I'm excited to see those monsters. And generally speaking, I liked Godzilla. And I liked a lot of this. And I think this movie gets enough stuff right that I'm still engaged by what they're going to do, you know?
Yeah, totally. I really feel that this movie was undoubtedly entertaining. Totally. I would definitely say it's undoubtedly entertaining.
And there's some great work in a lot of areas.
The style is really great. The visuals are amazing. When I say style, I mean like it's more than just great visual effects. There's like very specific style happening in this movie that I thought was very effective. It's just, you know, like when we happen to do a spoiler review, you just can't help but like talk about how weak the script and characters are, because it doesn't. it's like it doesn't take away that all the other stuff that's great that you see in the trailer, all that popcorn fun is all very much there for sure. But when you're gonna get into details about things, all we'd be doing the whole time is going, "Well, this shot looked cool. This shot looked cool. This shot." We have like actual spoilers to think about. This is what's coming to mind when I'm thinking about the movie.
It's a bummer. It's almost like a cure for wellness for me in a way where it's like there's so much stuff that I think is really good, and then the parts that don't click with the whole thing, or the parts that feel oddly undertended to stand out that much more, I guess, because like this could be a movie that I loved. Instead, it's a movie that I liked a lot, but I don't think has, ultimately rewatchability beyond a certain point, unless you want to really revisit that spectacle.
I think it's a good first-time movie-going experience.
Yeah, you'll have a good time.
I would say for the most part I did like it. I know that might not sound accurate to how we talked about the movie. I would say for the most part I did enjoy it. I did like it, but it's certainly very flawed in a more apparent way than I was expecting it to be.
It's flawed in a way that sort of bums you out because every now and again
it's just not doing it.
And I know that everybody involved is capable of this because I've seen them all do it, and even the people I haven't seen before are kind of shining, in their roles, and it makes things forgettable that shouldn't be forgettable, that are pretty distinct on screen, but it just doesn't seem like it thinks about anything beyond its plot.
Well, the reason I think the reason we're not getting so specific about the enjoyability stuff, because the enjoyability stuff is all the things that we establish at the beginning. Yeah. Which is visuals, style, action sequences, and there's only... But the thing is why we're not so raving about the scenes as much is because there's no emotional investment to any of the things that are happening. It's just only entertaining, but I really do feel that a second time around you might be bored. I don't feel like I get more from it or find it more enjoyable the second time. I feel like first time movie in the movie theaters, it's a fun fucking time. But after that, I'm like, I don't think I'd care to watch this on Netflix if it came out or something. I feel like I'll remember it enough to,
Yeah, it's a fun time with a lot of spectacular moments, like top-notch tentpole action stuff. And, it's got some neat ideas up its sleeves. And the problem is it highlights all the ways in which you do need to pay attention. Like, again... It's easy to sound like we're like, make this a film and be all super serious about it.
But it's King Kong, though, man. I don't feel like it's completely unreasonable to ask more of it.
But the things this movie leaves out highlights the reason you need characters to actually... you could do an immediate movie like this and still have characters talk about stuff that's not just the plot. That's what makes Tarantino movies good. Is partially is that characters talk about what they might be talking about in and between situations the way people do.
And characters are affected.
Characters take in what's going on around them. And so, even though everything's assembled really well, it reminds you that, things like tension and stakes and just being moved by... characters dying or all that cool shit gets less cool when that stuff's not on point,
Yeah, because I definitely did enjoy it, and I wouldn't say I regretted paying $25 at IMAX to see it because it was worth the IMAX experience.
It's like I'm happy that I saw it this way. And I still had a lot of fun. If you just want to have a good time, you'll get your money's worth out of that.
If you hear the title Kong Skull Island and all you give a shit about is seeing Kong and Skull Island and the monsters and shit, then you're alright. If you don't give a shit about any of these other things...
A couple characters will behave funny sometimes, but otherwise you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Anyway, guys, that's our spoiler review. Good luck to all you people who stayed till the end.
Shouts out to Eugene Cordero, other soldier. He's very funny.
If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe to The Real Reach. Oh, rating system time.
Oh, there was only one other thing. That's the one thing I will give, not necessarily the credit sting, but I think, especially as they're building the bigger universe, I think they did the best job of hinting at a crossover without being in your face about it until that credit sting. Yeah. Because the way they both, this and Godzilla share similar themes about man versus the earth and what we think we can harness and the way...
Well, there was the scene they released with John Goodman and Sam Jackson. He's saying stuff that specifically links to Godzilla.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
whole Muto thing, like
Yeah.
the massive unidentified terrestrial organism.
Yeah.
That and they slipped that by me so good that I only caught it this time in the theater. I was like,
Right.
oh, Muto, got it, right?
Yeah,
You know, like,
exactly.
and so I thought they did that in a nice way.
Yeah.
Like, so I'll give them props for that too, because better.
It's just the post credit goes right back to super exposition.
The post credits, is wacky.
It's not handled cleverly.
It's disconcerting. You're like, wait, hold on, what?
If I had a rating system for this movie, which I do, I would say it's okay to good.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like it's okay to pretty good.
Somewhere there.
It's okay to yeah.
It's a real mixed bag.
I give it a yeah.
Yeah. It's a good time if you're drunk.
Yeah, now
It's a party. I give this a C+.
Yeah, or a B minus.
I give it 6 out of 10.
Okay.
I give it
it a.
10. Yeah.
I give it a matinee, but you should pay full price just to go.
If I had to
with
guess,
all the trimmings.
I know the tomato score is above the 70s. It's like close to 80 right now or something. It might be at 80. But
I would put this movie in the 70s.
I put this at like 69.
Okay, that's fair. That's indicative. I think that's indicative of our opinion. I would give it like a 73.
73, okay.
73, 72, something like that. You know, like...
Yeah, maybe one day we'll come up with a rating system that we can just use to not have to keep referencing other people's.
Yeah.
Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Sean's Reasons is Jerry on Twitter and Instagram. Social media manager of Blumhouse and The Real Rejects. And shout out to all you guys who stuck here to the end.
Thanks, guys.
It's 3 in the morning for us.
3 a.m. Kong Skull Island. Woo! Yeah.